So let's talk about some video cards here, shall we? Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Terry. Hope you all are doing well. Now, obviously, this channel here is nowhere even remotely close to being big enough to get my hands via a reviewer unit or a media sample of the brand new RTX 3090 Ti from over at NVIDIA. But just going off some of the early reviews that I've seen from the other big name tech channels and also some really big and reputable tech publications online, I'm going to just go right out and give my recommendation. Don't buy it. I mean, like to put it bluntly, just don't buy it. A lot of them are going to be starting out at over $2,000, especially some of the add-in board partners, obviously like EVGA, your MSI, your Asus, all that jazz, you know. But whenever it's compared to a standard base Founders Edition 3090, you're only looking at about 5 to 10% on average better performance than a base 3090. A vast majority of the tests that I did see today, though, there were a few outliers. Like I believe one of them was Microsoft Flight Simulator. The 3090s were pulling anywhere between 50 to 55 frames per second of 4K on average, and the 3090 Ti actually was way ahead of it at nearly 80 frames per second. So will you see some of those outliers? Yeah, you sure will. But on average, though, you're only looking at around 5 to 10%, you know, just across the whole board here of increased performance from, again, a base RTX 3090. But the thing that I really wanted to talk about today, though, is of course the performance and all that jazz, but it's the power supply requirements here, everybody. As of right now, they have a TDP set for that card set to 100 watts over the original 3090. It went from 350 watts up to 450 watts. And I just watched a Gamers Nexus video. One of their EVGA for the win cards, I believe it was, their 3090 Ti was at peak was drawing 500 watts. You know, whenever I do a client build for somebody now and they specifically ask me for a 3090 or even this new 3090 Ti now, I am going to have to put in there, regardless of whatever else they have in their system, at minimum, a 1000 watt power supply, maybe even a 1200 watt or even a 1600 watt, especially if they plan on doing some overclocking. Is it probably needed to go up that high? Not necessarily, no. But whenever you're talking about efficiency ratings, and we all know that these RTX cards, especially from the 3080s on up, they tend to have those big spikes in power draw. You want to have a good enough power supply that has a little bit of headroom to where if it happens to pull more than what it can supply, it won't just shut the whole system down, and you'll have plenty of headroom whenever they do happen to pull those large power spikes, that it won't make anything else unstable. You know, especially if you're a big enthusiast out there and you know, you want to do some overclocking for both the video card and your processor. So if you have the brand new Intel i9 12900K or they have that brand new 12900KS at around $800 now, you're going to want a pretty substantial power supply just to keep everything stable. And I'm going to put up a little graph here for you guys to check it out for yourselves. But whenever it comes to how different the Ti model is versus the base 3090, they're really not that far apart. As far as CUDA cores here goes, you're going from 10,496 up to 10,752. You are going from a boost clock of 1.7 gigahertz up to 1.86 gigahertz. And you still have in both cards 24 gigs of GDDR6X. But I will say, though, I've done some research, and apparently, and I believe in Paul's Hardware's video, he also says this as well too, that instead of having, you know, memories on both sides of the card, so instead of having them on both the front and the back, they are using 2 gig modules to where they only have the VRAMs actually on the front of the card to have that nice active direct cooling from the heatsink, fans, all that jazz, you know what I mean? So of course there's going to be thermal pads and whatnot, but at least you don't have to worry about your cards cooking themselves essentially on the back like some of the other cards would. I mean, I know that I've seen videos out there of people benchmarking the 3090s, and the memory modules on those cards get like over 100 degrees. And yeah, you know, they're within spec and NVIDIA says that it's safe, but we all know here though, folks, that the hotter electronics run, it shortens the lifespan. Now, if you happen to run it that hot 24/7, I'm sure you would probably get 4 or 5, maybe 6 years out of it. But again here, folks, the cooler it is, the better. And you know, the speaking of cooler here too, folks, the temperatures that I was seeing from the EVGA cards, especially, like, you know, I can't, you know, speak for MSI, Asus, or whatever, even the Founders Edition here, but the temperature performance I was seeing from this 3.5 slot monstrous cooler from the EVGA 3090 Ti, I believe it was the For the Win edition. Even the overclocked version of that directly from EVGA from the factory, they were seeing temperatures like in the mid 70s, low 80s, and it was pulling like nearly 480, 490 watts. So it's either a really efficient card or just the cooler that EVGA happened to put on that card. It's extremely over-engineered to dissipate nearly 500 watts of heat. Like, that is just that I still can't believe this here, folks. I really, really can't. And also on these new cards, apparently, NVIDIA is actually putting on the card the new ATX power supply standard. There's like a specialty plug that there's an adapter for that you can use that if you want, instead of you would normally plug 3 8-pins into this card, or you could plug this one adapter cable to the card and then plug in the 3 8-pin PCI power to that and have one cable coming off of a card instead of all 3 of them. Okay, so I guess for aesthetics, to make it look a little bit better, you might want to go ahead and do that if you want. But apparently the new type of power connector is more efficient than the standard, you know, 8-pin modular stuff. So Intel went and created the new ATX standard just to deliver these insane power numbers through the PCI connectors and just through the connectors for the whole system. You know what I mean? And from what I was reading, these new PCI Express connectors on these newer power supplies coming out and everything for the new standard, they can deliver like, I think like what, 600 watts of power. I mean, like, yeah, it's cool and everything, don't get me wrong, but I mean, at that point, you might as well like not even think about buying an air-cooled card. Just get a card that's water blocked from the factory, or if you're going to spend $2,000 for a high-end graphics card, just automatically add on an extra $400 or $500 to that for water block fittings, tubing, radiators, fans, and pumps, and just call it a $3,000 card then if that's the case. You know what I mean? Like, these new cards from NVIDIA, they are very fast, and of course they are very good. Nobody's denying that they're some of the best out there. But in my humble opinion, and again, I don't have a card here that I can test out myself, just going off what I've seen everybody else do. If you already have a 3090, just overclock it a little bit. Just make sure you keep those memory modules a little bit cooler, and you should be good to go. If you have a 3080 or a 3080 Ti, if you want to upgrade, just get a 3090. I mean, just the cost to performance, to how much power these new 3090 Ti's require. Yeah, it's just not it, Chief. Just not it. Hopefully the 4000 series from NVIDIA, whenever they get announced, whenever they're going to be released, whatever, hopefully they're going to be a lot more, you know, power efficient. So hopefully we're going to see, like, it's okay if you ask me if they require a high wattage power supply to run them, but we're going to have to just see how efficient they are at using that power. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, this thing needs a 1000 watt power supply, but you're only going to get 120 frames per second in game. You know what I mean? Like, if you're using that much power, I hope they can use it more efficiently next generation. You know what I mean? So yeah, folks, look, what do y'all think about this? Do me a favor, sound off in the comments below. I can't wait to hear your feedback on this. Like, what do y'all think about it? This is a great time for gaming, great time to be a nerd, but man, things are getting expensive. So expensive. I'll catch you all in the next one.